MuseGroup, the current owners of Audacity, are once again trying to ruin the project. So all of this started about 2 months ago when MuseGroup acquired Audacity, and the first thing they decided to do before anything else is try to add telemetry into a FOSS project, and rightfully so. People got very, very angry about this, and surprisingly, they actually listened to this community feedback and decided to scrap this pull request. But they didn't decide to scrap telemetry. Part of this telemetry was going to be optional crash reporting, which I think is a perfectly valid use case, but it was also going to be sending data through things like Google Analytics and Yandex, which I'm not exactly a big fan of. Now, the thing about MuseGroup is they absolutely adore telemetry. If you go to their website, you'll see them boasting about how many users their software has, how many users different parts their software has, and they just love to boast about these numbers, and all of their software has telemetry inside of it, so at some point, it was going to be coming to Audacity, and now we know that I am 100% correct because they've updated their privacy policy to make sure they are legally protected when they decide to do so. I don't care about these comments though, so let's actually look at the privacy policy directly. Now, this was updated on July 2nd. However, I haven't been able to find a version of it on the Wayback Machine, which is really weird because a project as old as Audacity should have been crawled at some point. I don't even know if this existed before July 2nd. But this is the state that it's in now. So they say, we collect very limited personal data about you. So let's go and find out what that personal data actually is, because it is actually listed in here. So the personal data we collect is OS version, US country based on IP address, OS name and version, CPU, non-fatal error codes and messages, i.e. project failed to open, and crash reports in the BreakPad mini dump format. And the reason why they collect that is app analytics basically just means so they can boast about numbers and they can boast to their shareholders and improving our app. And their legal grounds for doing this is legitimate interest of WSM Group to offer and ensure the proper functioning of the app. Now, WSM Group isn't MuseGroup, so you might be really confused about who they are. I'll get into that in just a bit though, because they're kind of an interesting company. Now, all of these data points as individual data points, I don't think are really that objectionable. The problem is when you collect all of them at the same time, because once you have all of this, and then you have things like file paths in a crash report, that is enough to fingerprint an individual system. And the reason why that is actually a really big problem is because of the second thing they're going to be collecting, and that is data necessary for law enforcement, litigation, and authorities' requests, if any. And the reason why they collect that is for legal enforcement, and their legal grounds for doing so is legitimate interest of WSM Group to defend its legal rights and interests. This point right here is incredibly vague. What is data necessary for law enforcement? Presumably because in this column right here, it's different data to this set of data right here. Probably also includes that data as well, but if my understanding is correct, it basically opens them up to collect basically any data they want. Outside of the information for crash reporting, what information does an audio editor actually need to collect? At this point, I would be incredibly wary downloading any binaries distributed by the Audacity team. Presumably, you're going to be able to turn off a lot of the telemetry features if you're distributing it with a package manager, but the official binaries seem incredibly sketchy at this point. However, to the best of my knowledge, in the open source repo, telemetry hasn't been re-added. Unless it's been hidden in another commit, it doesn't seem to be there just yet. Another point people were kind of concerned about is with the data storage. So all your personal data is stored on our servers in the European Economic Area. However, we are occasionally required to share your personal data with our main office in Russia and external counsel in the USA. While that might sound kind of weird and maybe a little sketchy if you're afraid of Russia, they actually do have an office inside of Russia. So they've actually got two of them. They've got one in Kaliningrad and also another one in St. Petersburg. However, they also have offices over in London in Great Britain and also Limassol in Cyprus. Now, as for WSM Group, which is constantly mentioned throughout the privacy policy, they actually have an office in Kaliningrad as well. And as you can see, they list out things like Ultimate Guitar, MuseScore, and MuseClass. So I'm not sure if they are the Russian branch of MuseGroup, or if they're the parent company of MuseGroup. I haven't exactly been able to find that information, but their office is located in Kaliningrad. Now, interestingly, the address that's actually listed on the privacy policy, this one right here, if we go and take that and then stick that into Google Maps, I've noticed that it doesn't seem like the address actually exists. I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if the address is just formatted wrong or they've listed a fake address, but it does seem kind of weird. I will chalk it up to them having some sort of mistake in there rather than there being some sort of malice. If someone does have more information about that, please do let me know. But there's one other weird point, and that is under the additional information for California customers. So California has something known as the California Consumer Privacy Act, or the CCPA. And at the bottom of this section, it says, we do not sell personal information. Now, you might not think that's that weird. You probably would want them not to sell information. The weird thing about this, though, is where it's located. It's located under this section. And I take that to mean we do not sell information of Californian customers. But, as for other customers, well, we don't exactly know yet. And then literally directly above that, right to information regarding the categories of personal information collected, sold, and disclosed. You have the right to obtain information regarding the categories of personal information we collect, sell, or disclose. Does anyone else see a problem here? I don't know, maybe whoever they had write this up just copied and pasted basic legal information, but this seems to be a little bit of a problem to me. I don't know about you. But moving on from that, because they're now going to be collecting information about their users, there's one group of people who is no longer allowed to use the app because collecting information from those users is basically a legal nightmare, and that is minors. So it says, the app we provide is not intended for individuals below the age of 13. If you are under 13 years old, please do not use the app. And this creates a pretty big problem for Audacity because in both Australia and also in the UK, Audacity actually sees a lot of educational usage, not just with people in high school, but people younger than that as well. People who would now be breaking the privacy policy by actually using the application. Even back when I was in primary school, we would use Audacity in a couple of our classes. And while schools don't exactly have a problem sharing data with Google and Microsoft, I don't know if they're going to be able to get around straight up breaking the privacy policy of an application they want to use. I find it more likely the application will just be pulled from educational usage altogether. Audacity has another problem, and that is the age restriction is completely unenforceable because, as they say here, as a general comment, our app does not require you to create an account or profiles, and we do not ask you to provide us with your name, contact details, or any other direct identifiers. So they're basically going to say, hey, under 13-year-olds, don't use Audacity, but we're not going to try to do anything to stop you. And this makes me kind of believe that in the future, Audacity is going to require an account, and that wouldn't be that strange coming from MuseGroup. MuseScore, for example, has gone with the subscription model and does require an account. If they're not making an effort to not collect information from children, I feel like there might be a copper lawsuit that happens in a couple of years. Now, I want to correct a myth that has been going around, which is factually inaccurate, and that is that the new privacy policy basically introduces a GPL violation into the project because GPL v2 has a line that says the act of running the program is not restricted, and GPL v3 has a line that says this license explicitly affirms your unlimited permission to run the unmodified software, and this project is licensed under GPL v2 or later. There is one serious problem with that, and that is that Audacity isn't really a GPL project anymore ever since the contributors basically signed away all their rights by signing the contributor license agreement. While it's still GPL in name, because of this line in the CLA, it no longer matters. So you grant the owners of Audacity the ability to use the contributions in any way. You hereby grant a company a perpetual, non-exclusive, worldwide, fully paid up, royalty-free, irrevocable copyright license to reproduce, prepare derivative works of, publicly display, publicly perform, sub-license, and distribute your contribution and such derivative works. 90% of the codebase is covered by this. Basically, if they rewrite the last 10%, which they're already working on doing, your GPL doesn't matter. They could take the entire project proprietary tomorrow, and there is nothing you could do about it. The CLA basically makes MuseGroup the single rights holder, and when you're the single rights holder, the license doesn't really apply to you. Another thing I want to talk about is forking the project. So I repeatedly see people saying, oh, someone or the community should fork Audacity or fix this problem or represent the schools who want to use Audacity. I don't use Audacity that much. If Audacity goes proprietary tomorrow, my life doesn't really change either way. But if you do use Audacity and it is actually a fundamental part of your workflow, stop passing off the responsibility to someone else. If you want it to be fixed, go and fix it yourself. And if you don't have the skill to actually go and fix it yourself, there are a couple of forks that do exist, which I think are worth talking about. All of them are still very, very basic forks, but we have Audacium, we have Temporary Audacity / Audacity, and also Audio City. I don't know which of these is going to become the main fork, but go and promote these. Don't just say, oh, someone should fork it. Actually help out with the forks that exist. I guarantee this will not be the last time that MuseGroup does something dumb. This is what a corporate takeover normally looks like. The Freenode situation, that is the exception. That'll be everything for me, and before I go, I would like to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Joachim Donald, Logan Michael, Andrew Mitchell, Nathan, David, Carl, Will, Brennan, Chica Bento, Jamie Joseph, Josh, Michael, Peter D, Stephen Tees, through Tony Tushar, and all of my $2 supporters. If you'd like to go and support my work, the links down below to my Patreon, subscribe, style, leave a pay, all that sort of stuff. I've got my podcast, Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere. I've got a gaming channel called Brodie Robertson Plays, where I live stream twice a week and upload usually about 5 shorts a week as well. And this channel is available over on Odyssey. That's everything for me, and I'm out.